Yo, it's Tynee Talks. We're gonna talk about it right here. Yo, you ready? It's Tynee Talks right here. We gon' talk about it right here. We gon' talk about everything you like. I'ma make it real clear. It's Tynee Talks right here. We gon' talk about it right here. I'ma talk about everything you like. I'ma make it real clear. Cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it. Yeah, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it. And welcome to the Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains, the podcast where you come to laugh and learn. I am your host, Tynee, so be sure that you like, share, and subscribe on this podcast, and be sure to click the notification bell. Today's show is brought to you by our show sponsor, 810 Taco Seasoning. 810 Taco Seasoning is packed with 9 powerful flavors that are packed in high flavor but very low in sodium. You can put it on your tacos. You could put it on your steaks, your chickens. Remember, 810 Tacos is made for tacos, but delicious on everything. Visit 810tacos.com and use code Tynee Talks Tacos to receive free shipping on all orders over $20. Go on over there to 810tacos.com and tell them Tynee sent you. Today's show is entitled I am a first-gen college student. Well, I mean, I'm kind of playing around with the names. We'll see at the end. But this is a show dedicated to those students who are looking to go to college, and they're the first ones in their families to go to college, being a first-generation college student. I got some great guest co-hosts with me today to talk about their experiences as a first-generation college student, what that looks like, what things to look out for, what things to expect once you get there. So first before I introduce my guest, I'm going to define what a first generation college student is. Many of you may not know that you are or were a first generation college student. First generation means that your mother and your father do not have a bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree is a 4-year degree from a university. So even if your mom or your dad has an associate's degree, you're still considered first generation. Even if your auntie, sister-in-law, baby cousin Tracy from down the street and around the corner has a bachelor's degree, but your mama and your daddy don't have a bachelor's degree, then you, ma'am, sir, are a first generation college student. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I've gotten a lot of times where students are like, well, my cousin or my sister's in college. I'm not a first generation college student, and you're missing out on a lot of opportunities and programs for you because you think that my personal story is my mother went to college. She went, but she never finished. My sister is 4 years older than me, and by the time I graduated high school, she was getting her bachelor's degree, but I'm still considered a first generation college student. So I just wanted to define that today. So I got my girls with me today. We work together. We work in higher education. We won't tell you where we work because that's none of your business. But just know we take care of the children, the people, the humans that come through our office door. I got my girl Trish with me.
What's up?
Where you from?
Grand Prairie, Texas.
GP. And I got my girl Tamara with me. Where you from?
Hey guys, I'm from Jersey, but I've been in Texas like all my life. So
East Coast stands up. So we got the East Coast, the Midwest, and the dirty South. Is it dirty? And tell my guests where you went to undergraduate to obtain your bachelor's degree.
I started at the University of Houston, and I did a year there, and then I transferred to the University of Texas at Arlington, where I completed my 4-year degree.
All right, and Tamir, where'd you get your bachelor's degree from?
PV, you know. So that's Prairie View A&M University, for those that don't know.
Is that a historically black college or university?
And is.
And your host, your girl Tynee. My freshman year of college, I went to the Dillard University, located at 2601 Gentilly Boulevard.
You better say that whole address.
In New Orleans. And I went there my freshman year, and then I obtained my bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan Flint campus. Go Blue. So we have a wide range of perspectives here. We have the HBCU experience here, as well as the PWI experience. HBCU means historically black college or university, and PWI means predominantly white university, meaning that the percentage of the blacks and Hispanics are low. Okay? About less than 10% of the population is black. So that's why they call it a PWI, or predominantly white institution. All righty. So we're going to get to the meat of the matters. And first I want y'all to tell me why college was your choice. Like, why did you even aspire to go to college?
To me, I think I didn't have any choice. It's not like it was forced on me because, as mentioned, we are all first gen. But I knew that in order to improve my social mobility and to, not be in poverty as I grew up in, I had to get a degree. So I had to go to college. It was nothing else left for me to do. I didn't want to work in retail, dead-end jobs. I wanted to go to college and get a degree and make something of my life.
Come on, social mobility. And we're not saying those who work in retail or food, because y'all make the world go round, that y'all didn't make something with your life. Okay, just disclaimer out there. Don't come at me. Don't come at Trish.
I mean, don't, but education.
got you.
Education is the way out.
Social mobility. And why did you decide to go?
It's kind of the same. It wasn't forced, but it was like me and my best friend graduated and was like, okay, what are we going to do now? And then we was like, okay, we're going to apply. I know I didn't want to stay in Arlington. I was like, we not about to stay here. We about to do something. So we gonna just apply to the same places, and then wherever we both get accepted. So we got accepted at PV and Langston. Mm-hmm. And I got accepted into UNT, but I didn't want to leave my best friend. So we went to PB together.
I had a similar situation. So I had a real close friend named Raquel. We kind of called each other cousins. And we kind of had similar situations, right? Mm-hmm. And we both, our senior year, we was at the same high school. We both applied to the same colleges and universities. University of Houston, Stephen F. Austin. And we got accepted to both. I also applied to other colleges and university as well. Mm-hmm. And the plan was that we was going to go to the same university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she decided to go to SFA, which is Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, East Texas, those who don't know. And I decided to go to University of Houston because some other people I knew was going to Houston. So
that's where you ended up. Mm-hmm. My story is slightly different. Like I said, my mom went to college. She just didn't finish. She kind of throughout my life went to school, then not went to school, and went to school, not went to school. My 5-year-old photos, everybody takes a photo when they're 5 years old, was at the college. I took a photo in a sweatshirt she was attending at the time, which was Mott Community College located in Flint, Michigan, which I ended up working there. So things came full circle. It's like, wow, I had this shirt on. So college was always going to be a viable option for me. My mom always encouraged it, that me and my sister go and get an education and complete it. And I was always placed in gifted programs and pre-college programs that was like, you're going to college. College is the way. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And in TV shows like A Different World and the Cosby Show inspired me to go to college. That's one of the reasons why I went to a HBCU first, because I wanted that Dwayne Wade, Whitley Gilbert experience. Okay. And Dillard was kind of that experience. Like, I had a dorm mother, and like Jaleesa, like all that. Now that we know that's a dorm housing director.
Yeah. I had the same. Mine was an older lady though, and she was mean.
Yeah, we had Miss Darby. She was like in her 40s and she was still hip, but she would tell you like it is. Shout out to Miss Darby. She'd be like, y'all better be here during curfew. I want y'all to know I had a curfew my freshman year of college.
We did too.
I didn't have one.
At PWIs, you tend not to when you go to a HBCU. For those who are considering a PWI or HBCU, there is a difference. It's like a second family at the HBCU. So your dorm mother, the mother part, emphasis on mother.
Mine didn't play.
But I think that's needed for HBCUs though, because you don't. Oftentimes, when you're at an HBCU, a lot of them are first gen, so they're missing that component, that motherly component. So I think it's very important for it to be noticed or there at those HBCUs. I mean, I would love it. I would have loved it at the PWI, but I think it's especially needed.
Yeah.
And my lady, she was like, you don't stay in this building. It's curfew. It's time. It's time to go. It's time to go back to your building.
Well,
like, dang.
To a lot of, you said that the majority of students at HBCU are first gen. Not necessarily true. A lot of students at HBCUs are legacy. So their parents went or their grandparents went. It's a lot of legacy at HBCUs. But I think that a PWI would do great to have for freshman curfew. Not when you become a sophomore, junior, or senior. But you do. I feel like you need that structure. So one of the things that inspired this talk was we were in my office one day. Who's breathing into the mic?
That'd be me.
I
can't breathe right now.
You all right? Yeah. Okay, baby. It's all right.
No, this bronchitis trying to take me out.
All right, for y'all listening, who gonna be listening on the Spotify, Apple Podcast, my baby going through some sinus situation. The weather is a changing, but. This conversation was kind of inspired. We were just in my office kind of kicking it and like you just talking about our experiences and how we got to school. And so let this be an encouragement that you might not always go the traditional route. Although college was pushed and I had scholarships that took me to college, I went to undergrad. I got that for free, except for when I went to Dillard. I had a partial scholarship. So a partial scholarship means they pay for some of your tuition and fees, but not everything. So the partial scholarship was some of my tuition and fees was paid for, and I still had to pay for housing. So sometimes your tuition might be covered, but your housing might not be. And so I went to Dillard on a partial scholarship, which means I had to take out just one loan, actually. I didn't have to take out a lot of loans. And then I transferred to the University of Michigan Flint on a full ride scholarship. When you hear full ride, that means everything is paid for.
Take it.
And I didn't stay on campus, so I didn't have to pay for housing. And so I had a full ride there. But however, when I went to college, and the ladies are going to share their experience of how they got there and the struggles. My mom, my father is deceased. And when I got taken to college, mind you, I'm from Flint, Michigan. Dillard was in New Orleans. So the top of the map, if you look at a map, I'm at the top of the map in Michigan. And Louisiana is at the bottom of the map, that boot. So I was hundreds of miles away from home, and my mother couldn't get off work. She had just started working at the hospital, and she could not take me to school. So my godfather, shout out to the Clarence Jennings, my godfather took me from Michigan and drove me in his car to Louisiana. We went through Mississippi, where we didn't stop at night because he was like, we don't know what will happen to us. So we drove throughout the night, and my godfather got me safely there. But I didn't have the send off like a lot of kids when I got there did. They had mama and daddy there and grandma and everybody there to send them off. But my goddaddy, shout out to him, he was there, made sure I had everything straight. Gave me a hug, took me to Walmart, so I had my cleaning supplies to clean up my dorm. My mama sent me with all my essentials, and then he left. And it kind of was a lonely place. But my roommate that I ended up meeting, she was from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we developed an instant friendship and bond. And her parents dropped her off, and they never let me go. So shout out to the Morels. But that was my story, and it can be a lonely place. But don't let that discourage you from going to college, because your people might not be there, or you have to get there by any means necessary. So what was your journey like, Trish? I know you got a storied story.
Yeah. Okay. So in high school, I was in my sophomore year. That was probably my game changing year. Early that year, I was a witness to a murder, which was so happened to be my son's uncle. But that year was the first year I had all black educators for my core subjects. Mm-hmm. My geometry teacher was Mr. Wilson. Shout out to him. My English teacher was Miss Martin. Shout out to her. My AP history teacher was Miss Taylor. Shout out to her. My biology teacher, I can't even think of her name, but she was tough on me, and I love her for that. But at that point, I realized, like, if I'm going to make a change, it had, like, that sophomore year was my game-changing year. Like, I don't want to, at that time, gangs and stuff
were prevalent in your area.
Really prevalent in that area. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a part of it, but I was associated with people who were in them, right? Mm-hmm. I was never a troublemaker, but, you know, sometimes you're guilty by association. So,
wait. Young people who listen to this, guilty by association. We work in education. I got so many students that, not so many, but a few students who are in prison right now because of association. So that's very key.
Yes. So I knew then, like, I need to make a change. I need to get involved in extracurricular activities. I was already involved in sports, right? But other, you know, organizations at the high school, right? I was in Key Club, Student Council, NAACP. That's when I first joined NAACP. And when I was in NAACP, I was connected with the Educational Talent Search Program, which is part of TRIO. A lot of people, I don't know if you talked about TRIO, but TRIO, there's a pre-college and there's a collegiate programs. They have 7 programs. In the high schools, there's Educational Talent Search, known as Talent Search, and there's Upward Bound. I didn't know about Upward Bound and Upward Bound Math and Science, but I knew about Talent Search. And Talent Search, they, you know, took us to college tours and provided us with fee waivers for SATs and prep for SATs and ACTs. So I was involved in that, and I started that my sophomore year. So my senior year, that's when I hit it strong, right? Mm-hmm. My sophomore year, my junior year, I started working, so I needed money because, you know, we poor over here. We ain't got no money. But I was a hustler. I always made money. But my junior year, I started working. Senior year, I hit it running. You know, with college applications, started that my first semester, right? So I applied to Florida A&M University. Got accepted. Yes, Clark Atlanta University got accepted. University of Houston got accepted. Texas Tech got accepted. Stephen F. Austin got accepted, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And I don't know why I applied. They just kept sending me stuff. They just kept, you know how they keep sending me stuff. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And I got accepted. But my mom did not have no car. So it was like, you had to think about that. My mom didn't have money. So it was like, how am I going to get out of state if I can't even get down the street? You know, I have to walk to school every day. So how am I going to get to Florida or to Georgia? I love the HB. I wanted to get the HBCU experience, and I knew about that. I knew about it then. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, nobody wanted me to go to Prairie View. They was like, "No, that's a party school. You can't go there, right?"
Mm-hmm. And it is.
So, but you graduated.
Period.
So like I said previously, me and my friend Raquel, we both applied to University of Houston and SFA. We both got accepted. So I went to University of Houston because another friend of mine who we've been friends since junior high. She got accepted to Texas Southern, which is right across the street from University of Houston. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our parents knew each other. We're like sisters. So that's what we called each other. Everybody knew us as sisters. So I was just like, I'm just going to go to Houston. Amber's at Texas Southern. I mean, what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so fast forward, I graduate, right? Mind you, I'm working, right? I've always had this job. I worked at Six Flags. So my senior year, I'm really, like, once I got accepted once I decided what college I was going to go to, it's like, now I got to really work. Mm-hmm. Got to pay for prom, got to pay for, you know, all these other college expenses. Talent Search did cover, like, you know, the fees and stuff, but they don't cover much else after that, you know? So I worked the whole summer, right? And the plan was to get me a car. So I bought a car for my aunt, $500, right? It was a raggedy car, and I had to get it fixed. So I bought it early right? So I could spend the whole summer getting it fixed.
Right.
And everybody, so I'm from Dalworth in Grand Prairie, Texas. Everybody has that one mechanic in that hood that could fix every car, right?
Right.
Okay. So that mechanic was my uncle John A. Brooks. So every day I was working, and I used to come to Uncle John A's house, be like, here's some money, what we got to do. So he ended up getting the car fixed by the time I leave. But by the time August came, they was not going to let me go to Houston without it because I didn't have a driver's license. Understandable.
Yeah, you gotta have a driver's license to drive. I mean, where we live now, that doesn't apply to most of the people here. Just get on 635 and you'll realize half the people don't got a driver's license.
It was okay, so whatever. So, like I said, my mom didn't have a car. So August comes, I got to go to Houston, right?
Right.
How am I going to get there? My sister had recently, I have an older sister, she's 7 years older than me. She was recently incarcerated. So my mom had custody of my niece and nephew. So they was young, so she was kind of, limited on where she can go. Mm-hmm. And my godmother, who I also call my mom, she worked a lot, so she couldn't take off to take me to Houston. Of course, Houston is 4 hours away. Gas is really high. We're poor. How am I going to get to Houston, right? Mm-hmm. So thank God, it's always somebody that's in your corner, right? So my sister's grandmother, so her dad's mom, her name is Miss Delma. She was like, "Oh, you're going," because I decided I wasn't going to go to Houston. I wasn't going to go to college. Like, how am I going to get there?
Right.
So my Aunt Bonnie took me to orientation. I went to the last orientation, July 23rd, the last one, the last one that was available. Okay, I waited last minute.
Funny.
Do not wait last minute to do anything. Okay. She took me to orientation. We was there for 2 days. All right, cool. But Miss Delma, she was like, "Oh yeah, you're going." She was like, "If I gotta buy you a bus ticket, you're going." And guess that's what she did.
She got you.
Bought me a bus ticket.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. And for the young people, I really want this. I want you to, my traditional listeners out there, please share this with your younger cousins, your younger siblings, any youth that you work with, to understand that adversity will be there, but you have to have a wherewithal spirit. You got to have the spirit in you, like, by any means necessary. Right. I'm going to get to what I need to create a better life for me. Trish touched on a TRIO. TRIO is a federally funded program through the United States Department of Education. She was in Talent Search. I was in Classic Upward Bound, as well as Upward Bound Math and Science. You qualify for those programs if you are first generation, which we've already defined what first generation is, and you also qualify if you're low income. So even if your parent has a bachelor's degree but their income is not where it needs to be, you can also qualify for the program. So I hit on both. I was low income and first generation, where I was able to be a part of Upward Bound. Upward Bound is fantastic. They take you on college trips that exposes you to colleges and universities that you may have never considered before. You also go on field trips that help you just grow as a person, museums, trips to Disney World, trips to Six Flags, my program went to Toronto, Canada, just all these different places that we went, different restaurants. They teach you etiquette, how to eat with your forks at a professional dinner, how to dress. And this program is free. I can't stress it enough. It's free, $99. It's free to you. It's free to your parent. And it's a great program. So I was in that program. And later on in life, I also was a coordinator for the program. So I could pour into children as it was poured into me. Trish also mentioned not having a car growing up. I, too, didn't have a car growing up, but that did not stop me from getting to the places that I needed to get to. I would get on. I'm from Michigan. They're from Texas. And in Michigan and Flint, we had the MTA, Mass Transportation Authority. That's the bus. So I got on the bus to go everywhere I needed to be. Cheerleading practice, to get to Upward Bound. The great thing about Upward Bound, they provided you with bus passes. So if you didn't have the money to get on the bus, they had a bus pass for you, so you get there. Upward Bound also provides you with a stipend. So as long as you're coming to the program, I got a $40 check a month just for going to the program. So in your community, look for programs like Upward Bound and Talent Search and other pre-college programs. I was also a part of the Wade H. McCrean Center Scholarship Program, and that's how I got my full ride to the University of Michigan Flint, because I got selected in the 8th grade. it's called an incentive program. So it's incentivized, meaning that you gotta come to different programs and do different things in order for you to obtain the full ride scholarship. So nothing is gonna be handed to you or given to you. Nothing is gonna be free. You gotta work for it is with what you want. I work with too many students that say stuff like, "That's too much. I gotta do that.
I gotta write an essay.
I gotta write an essay.
Right.
I gotta you gotta grind hard so you can shine later." We grind and now look at us. Now look at you. Now look at us. I'm telling you, we got health insurance. We got good salaries. We get PTO. That means paid time off. And that's the difference. Education will separate you sometimes from an hourly job to a salary job, where when you take off is not detrimental to your employment.
Right.
There are some people that work, and if they take off, that could cost them their job. And so, having higher education moves that, like she said, that social mobility. It changes the trajectory of your whole life, and sometimes a whole generation of life. So now that we're first generation students, and we all have children. So when our children go off to college, they will be second generation college students. So you want to keep changing the generational cycles in your family. And Tamara, what was your journey that got you?
So, like I said, so it was actually three of us, me and my two best friends, Paisley and Aisha. Aisha was the smart one out of us, so she was in all the stuff y'all was in.
Yeah.
That was her. Me and Paisley was like, "Oh, what you got in this class? You got a C? I bet we passed." So that was high school for us. We wasn't even looking for like, "Oh, I want to go to this school. I want to go to this school." But once we graduated, we're like, okay, well, we know we don't want to stay here. So we started applying. So when we got accepted to PV, it was kind of last minute, and they were like, well, this is the orientation. So both of our parents, both of us are single moms. So they're like, we can't take off. Same thing. So my brother, he's 4 years older. He didn't go. They tricked him basically. He ended up going to ITT Tech. He had the grades.
Do it.
Yeah, he had the grades to go anywhere he wanted to go, but a recruiter got him and was like, got him in. So he's 4 years older, so he didn't really go. He just did ITT Tech, but he was dating this girl at the time, and she really liked him. So she was like, "Oh, I can take y'all to orientation." So we was like, okay. So Paisley mom real strict. So she was like, I'm just going to tell my mom that your mom is taking us, because she's not going to let me go if otherwise. So
by any means necessary.
She took us. We didn't have nowhere to go. We have nowhere. She was like, the person we supposed to stay with is going out of town. So we literally slept in the car. And then got up, went to orientation, and then drove right back. So like thinking back now, I'm like, dang, we did all that, and it was just us doing it at that moment. So we went to orientation and then got all our stuff. They sent us our room assignment. So we're like, whew, okay, we together. So my mom went and got us comforters and matching everything for our dorm. So her mom filled up their car, my mom filled up our car, and then we rode together. So we was acting like thugs. We was like, we good. And then as soon as they was getting ready to leave,
tears.
We looked at each other. We was like, don't do it. Stay strong. And then as soon as they hugged us, we all just melted. Tears just streaming like, okay. So they left. We was like, nah, we gonna be good. Like, so everybody thought we were sisters.
Yeah.
The whole till this day, people still think we're sisters. But so we were together freshman year. Sophomore year, they messed up my room. So we were still on campus at this point. So they had, their room was like here, and then my room was like right behind them. So I was like, whatever. So we still close. And then the next year we moved off campus. This is when I got with my now.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
We'll talk about dudes.
yeah. So, but that was probably like the biggest, the hardest part of it. But once we got there, we always had each other. So we majored in psychology together. We had all our classes together. So we always had each other. So it wasn't like too bad for us because it was all us or nothing.
Yeah. So based on what both you and Trish said about you guys have buddies that you went to college with. So those who are out there, if you got a friend, you know, that's going to the same college, or someone from your church or someone in your community, make sure you link up with them, because those are the supports that you'll need to, you know, sustain you and help you, you know, matriculate through college. Because college, and I must say this, college is not, even though you do have to have the grades to get there. So you do need to study. Your GPA is your currency. So you want to make sure that it is at least above a 2.5 for sure. If you want to get into a top college, it needs to be above a 3.0. But again, your grades are your currency. So don't blow off your classes.
Right.
Don't blow off those core classes, math, science, English, and math. Well, I said math. History, yes. History, math, science, English. Don't blow off those core subjects, and don't really blow off any of your subjects, because there's something called a transcript, and they're looking at the totality of your transcript, even though your core classes hold more bearing, but they're looking at everything. Because when you get to college, you do have to take electives, but electives are not like high school electives. Your electives count, and that's going to affect that GPA. So we talked about how we got there. We talked about some of the adversity that, as you heard from all stories, it did not let it stop either one of us. We didn't let transportation stop. We didn't let poorness stop us. Some of us had other obstacles that we may not want to touch on. I could say, you know, my mother suffered from some mental illness, you know, that could have deterred me from moving forward or having survived. Sometimes they call it survivor's remorse. When you're moving forward, but the people behind you are not necessarily, or, you know, there's some things going on that maybe your friends could not get to, but you got to. So some people have survivor's remorse. If you're watching Snowfall right now, that's what Leon is having. He moved to Africa, saw what was happening, all the beautifulness taking place, so he felt like he needed to.
Right. I haven't started.
Spoiler alert.
Like, jeez. Haven't got there yet.
Okay, I'll just stop that now. But I want to say there was a TV show called Survivor's Remorse, and that's the kind of feeling where you feel like I'm advancing, or, you know, my friends might be still, like she said, still back here working in retail. So you feel guilty as like you can't move forward or matriculate. But don't let that stop you. You cannot change your predicament, your condition, unless you constantly moving forward and again trying to change your trajectory of your life. And education, higher education, will do that. So let's give some tips on what students as a first generation can do to be successful while they're in college, and what should they avoid?
Okay, so you all have to go to orientation, you know, when you're starting, you know, college. I think it's a requirement. So at orientation, there's this big fair that happens, like an organization fair, where there's a lot of student organizations there, a lot of programs there. Find a program that best fits what you are trying to do. So I always encourage students to find an organization that's for their within their degree. So maybe if you're a biology or criminal justice, something in that field, okay, public service, whatever it may be. Find a social club, one or two, okay? For me, I did NAACP. So NAACP, there's Black Student Association, there's African Student Organization.
I went to what was I in? Negro Women's Council. I was part of that.
There's NACWC, National Association of Colored Women's Club. Yeah,
I think so.
I wasn't a part of it, but I have a lot of friends that was a part of that organization. There's Black Male Initiative programs. So find a social program to be a part of your freshman year.
Yeah, if you want to be a journalist, National Association of Black Journalists, they have there's programs on campus to support you. I was a health education major, so I had Eta Sigma Gamma, which was a national honorary for people in health sciences or health education. So anything that's, like she says, going to support your major, your future career.
And then for first generation students, Student Support Services, which is a TRIO program, I strongly encourage you to do that, because just like how it is on the pre-college level where they provide they do provide scholarship stipends, services, tutoring. They do all that, and it's for free. Okay?
They provide, some campuses charge you to print, but if you're in Student Support Services, printing is free. They'll print for you. When you get to college, there are things called Scantrons. So some professors are moving away from it. Things are going more digital. I'm dating myself. Right. But you can get free Scantrons.
That was a thing back then.
You had to go get a pack. You had to go to the bookstore, go get a pack of Scantrons.
Yes.
Make sure you had a pencil.
And the right size Scantron.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not using the fat one.
You got to get the little skinny one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to sell them.
Look at you, always hustling.
Right, of course you
did. You can hustle, like, I'm so glad she said that she used to sell them. You can make money in college.
In class.
People want you to write their papers. You need to be the writer. Don't you get somebody else to write your stuff.
You need to be the
I made a lot of money. I was a freshman in college writing seniors' papers. I just want to throw that out there, baby. A genius. I'm a little mini genius.
Okay.
If you're not a braid, if you're not a braid hair, I don't know how to do hair. Hair ain't my ministry. But if you know how to braid hair, my girl.
She did her own hair, y'all.
She did her whole own hair, y'all. The girl did her own hair. And she did people in the dorm hair. Make your money. It's a killing. If you know a little hustle, use what you got. Whatever you doing in the streets, don't sell drugs.
Yeah.
But
now we had somebody, he had a suitcase. He would come around, he had all the snacks. All the snacks you could think of, he would have it. And people was doing their thing. So they was like, hey, yeah. Let me get a pack of Skittles. Let me get that.
Yeah.
What kind of chips you got? Like he was making a killer. He would go to Sam's.
I was gonna say that his mom had a Sam's Club membership.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I got a Sam's Club. My son gonna be right. I got a Sam's Club membership.
Right.
Our kids is gonna be good.
Period.
They're gonna be good.
Period.
So Trish talked about some of the things, that could set you up for success as a freshman. Of course, you got to study. Of course, you got to go
to the library.
Go to class.
And
go to class.
I said yes. Yeah.
And don't take an 8 o'clock class if you.
Don't take 8 o'clock class if you're not let me take that. Well, don't take an 8 o'clock class, but if you're a freshman and sometimes if you go to a HBCU, it might be required. Like it was.
Yeah, we did. We had to take
It was mandatory that I had to have an 8 o'clock
at least one
math class. But if you go to a PWI, you may have the autonomy to select. If you're not a morning
vocabulary,
person, that's that college education, baby. If you're not a morning person, make sure your class at least start at 10 o'clock. Don't do 8 a.m. Don't do 9 a.m. Don't party all the time. And if you're a freshman girl, I have to say this. That senior don't want you. He trying to bang you.
Period.
Just like it was in high school, y'all.
Just like in high school. Don't fall for the traps, y'all.
But it really is about balance. Like my freshman year, I think I did okay with the balance. But then sophomore year, it was literally a party every day. And I went to the party every day. Yeah, my GPA went smooth down.
You got to have balance.
Yeah, so balance. You can go to the parties, but you still have to know what you're there for. You're there to get your degree. You're there to finish. So go to your parties, have fun, but make sure you got your work done, period.
Of the Universal College Student Weekend starts on Thursday.
Right.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, perhaps Thursday, you need to be in them books studying. I was a balance. I never was on academic probation. I studied and I partied on the weekends. If you know you cannot handle partying throughout the week, don't do it. Have a balance.
Got to.
You got to have a balance. What's something that you wish you would have known before you went to college that you didn't learn until you got there?
Well, my mom served in the military. And she's 100% disabled. So there's certain benefits that veterans can use for their children. So I could have went to college for the free. And I didn't know that until later in life. And my mom was like, do you think they could pay for it now? Lady, no.
It's not how it
The
works.
ship has sailed.
It's not how it works, ma'am. It's not.
Granted, because of us being low income, I kept my GPA to a point where I could still continue to get aid. I get the maximum amount of grants, but I did put a little bit of loans. Most of those loans, a good chunk of those loans, came from graduate school, though.
Yeah. That's where my loans came from, graduate school. So if you are an undergraduate watching this and you do want to get your master's degree, try to get an assistantship. I didn't learn about an assistantship till I got to grad school, and I could have changed programs and then it would have been paid for. But I was already like in my program and I didn't want to be there for a long time. So I got my master's degree. That's after you get your bachelor's degree in 18 months. So, but if I would have switched over for them to pay for it, I would have been there for an additional 2 years. And I was just trying to be done. So if you're an undergraduate student and you want to get your master's degree, either get a job or an employer that will pay for it, or try to find an assistantship, because the cost of tuition for a master's degree is way higher than your undergraduate experience. What's something that you would have known before you got there?
Like in high school, I knew about Upward Bound and all of that, but I didn't know about like the first generation stuff. Like I could have took part in all of that, and I just didn't know. So when we got to school and I had to take out loans, and then like my freshman year, like $400 or something like that for my room wasn't paid for. So I'm calling my mom crying, like, they said I don't have any more money, and I knew she didn't have it. So I'm like, what are we gonna do? But you know, my mom being my mom, she always made a way. So we called a few people and got it taken care of. But if I would have known that, then it was like some of this stuff could have been taken care of. So
that's a good lesson to learn. So we've told you here on this podcast, so don't say nobody told you. What's a mistake you made while you were in undergrad that you want to not let the listeners that are considering college to avoid?
I mean, the party. But like I said, I did go on probation my sophomore year because of going to, I mean, I don't regret it because I had a great time.
Yes.
I was able to bring my GPA back up because it was kind of like, okay, get your stuff together, like you playing. But at that, I wish I would have at that moment been like, okay, let me get up and go to class and stop playing. Like just to learn how to balance earlier. So by my junior year, I was able to do both because I was more focused on, okay, because at that time it's more my major classes, and this is what I'm interested in anyway. So it was easier, but learning earlier how to balance and not party so much.
That's a good lesson because it do be fun.
It do be fun.
So you said a mistake?
Yeah, a mistake that you would encourage someone not to make.
I don't know. I don't think I made any mistakes. Everything was a lesson. I think sometimes I was a little bit too trustworthy to some people, and they didn't deserve that. So it's not. I wasn't naive because I'm hella street smart, and you know I know the game. But sometimes I was just too trustworthy for people. Well, I think I trusted some people too much, and I shouldn't have done that. Where it could have messed me up for a mistake that somebody else made. You know?
Yeah.
That's a good lesson. My brother always say that everyone has their own code of conduct. And when you're coming to college, you're coming with people from all over the country or all over the region or all over the state that you're from. And you got to understand that everybody wasn't raised like you. Everybody doesn't have the same morals that you have and things of that nature. So just be mindful and careful of the people that you link up with, cling to, tell your business to, because everybody doesn't mean well for you, and some people do. A mistake that I made, I don't want to say a mistake, maybe I'm using the wrong verbiage, or something that I wish I would have done, or which I wish, and I knew about it when I was there, was to study abroad. Studying abroad when you're an undergrad, which means you can go to another country and get college credit while learning over there in another country. And I just wish I would have taken advantage of that. I wish I was they tell you that it takes 4 years to get a bachelor's degree, in that 4 to 5 years. I got mine in 4 years. But I was in a race, and I want to say this, I don't know who I was in a race with. You know what I mean? I just felt like I was speeding through this thing called college so that I could prove to whomever
that I did it.
I did it in 4 years. So I want to say, if you have to take time, take your time. If you want to study it abroad and it makes you go to school an additional semester longer, take the time to have that experience, because experience and time is something that you can never get back. And I feel like I was speeding through something to prove to whoever, people back home, or, you know, just to have maybe even bragging rights to say I finished in 4 years. And it's like, okay.
That's like saying I graduated high school when I was 16. Okay, kudos for you.
Right.
I still have a degree. I still have a degree. You still have a degree. So
and we're here.
Right.
We're in the same place.
Yeah. So don't like they say, just finish the race. As long as you cross the finish line. It's a marathon, not a race. And so that's something that I regret, that I was just trying to, I sped through everything. And sometimes you just got to take your time to enjoy the moment. Yeah. When you get to college, it's a unique time in life. It's the only time in life where you can work, go to school, get long breaks, kick it with your friends in your dorm, go on crazy road trips, poor. Like when you're an adult and you poor, you really, your mind tells you don't make that decision. Right. Your 18-year-old self say, you got $15, you got $15, I got $15.
That's
$45.
We can get a bottle, some food, like we can make this work.
Let's go on a road trip. You're just gonna do those things. It is such a unique time. And you'll never get it back, because once you get into work world,
the responsibility builds up.
It builds up, and
the bills build up.
Baby, it builds up, and it's there. So, but we're blessed because we work in higher ed, so we still get a little bit of breaks.
Right. Amen.
Like, okay, wait till we got the next.
Right. 5 days and counting.
But if you work in like a corporate job, you only go get them federal holidays, and that's one day. So enjoy the undergraduate experience. It is, baby. It's a time.
It is a time.
A time was had.
It was and was.
A time was had. We all graduated from where we graduated from. But if we could go back, if you could go back in time, where's somewhere that you wish you would have gone? Like ideally, the college you wish you would have gone to.
I wanted to go to Clark, Atlanta. I went to a trip in high school. They took us to different schools, and we went to Clark. And I was like, "Oh, this is where I bought shirts. This is where I'm going."
Yeah.
But then once we graduated, and then I'm like, we're just gonna stay a little closer. So PB it is. But yeah, I knew I was going to Clark. Couldn't nobody tell me differently.
Where would you have gone?
It was FAMU.
Yeah. It was Spelman for me.
Yeah.
Or Hampton. Yeah.
So I actually got accepted. I got accepted to Hampton for a graduate program. So my last semester, my undergrad, that's when I found out I was pregnant with my son Tristan. And me and my best friend Jasmine, we spent a lot of time in the library. So during that time, we were trying to figure out the next step. I didn't know I was pregnant at that time yet. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next. I did not plan on staying in Texas. Like, I feel like I devoted 21 years of my life in Texas. So let's go out, So I started applying, and sports, if people know sports is that's me. Like, if I could do it all day long, I would. Like that. I love sports, anything sports related, sports management. So I applied to Hampton Sports Management Program, and I got accepted into it. But then that's when I found out I was pregnant with Tristan, and my mom was like, "Well, he could just stay here and you could just go." And I was like, "No." Yeah, I'm going to take care of my child. I'm going to take care of my responsibility. So I wish I would have had that. I mean, I had the opportunity, right? But Hampton. Yeah, I want to go to the East Coast.
Two things just came to my mind that I want to tell those out there listening is, don't let other people discourage you from something that you want to go towards just because they're not familiar with it, or didn't work out for them or someone else that they knew, because it could just work out for you. Case in point, she talked about grad school. I went to grad school for communications, which I'm happy I did because I love to talk.
She does.
But initially, I had got accepted to grad school to go study kinesiology. And I got accepted at the University of Akron to go study kinesiology. And my mama was like, kinesiology? What's that? But people do that in families. Like when they've never heard of something.
What you gonna do with that?
Yeah, exactly. Their reaction might cause you to change, which in this case, thank you, Mama, because communications was for me. But I know people who are doing so many different careers that I've never heard of. I have a god sister that is a what is it called? Metronomy. What is a metronomist, right? She's the person that weighs the scales, like when you're on the highway and it's like, go over this scale thing, or when you're at the gas station and it's telling you how many gallons per, and that person.
That person. Who knew that was a job?
Who knew that was a job? But it's science, guys. So explore. Explore just all those things, and don't let somebody who don't know, who ain't never went to college, don't know nothing about college, just say that one little phrase, like she said, what you gonna do with that, or what's that? Like, explore, go for it. We only get one life. And we only got one life to live. Explore, do, see, seek, touch, feel, taste, all of it. Not drugs, but other stuff. But do those things, and don't let anyone deter you. The other thing is, when you go and you select a college, make sure that college has your major. Again, we work in higher ed. I had a young lady come to my office the other day who wanted to go into I can't think of what she wanted to go to, but she wanted to go to UNT, the University of North Texas. So I said, sweetheart, they don't have that program. So sometimes you want to go to the school because of the name or the prestige, or again, because your friends are going there. If they don't have what it is that you want to study, that is not the school for you. And sometimes you do have to part, even though, they went with places where they had friends or whatever. Sometimes you do have to break away to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. What say y'all about that?
I would agree on that. But it's also like undergrad colleges, that's a discovery, place in your life. So it's also okay if you change your major.
Yes.
Okay. So I did. So when I was at University of Houston, I was a kinesiology major. And then I took this class. I can't remember what the class was called, but it intrigued me to add a minor. So the minor at that time was Human Development and Family Studies. And when I transferred to UTA, I didn't do enough research. I really just transferred to UTA because it was back at home and I needed to be back at home for, other reasons. So I just I'm just going to do nursing. I didn't want to be a nurse. I did not want to be a nurse.
I did not want to be a nurse. But UTA has a great nursing program.
This is no shade, no tea. I can't see you as a nurse.
Exactly. I didn't want to be a nurse.
Right.
I did not want to be a nurse. And although I was doing okay in the classes, I worked full time. But I took a sociology class. And I don't know why I took the sociology class, because I took it at University of Houston. But I was told, if you want to get a better grade, I got a B in it. So it's fine. Right. It's a B plus. I got a B plus. But it's kind of a blessing. I retook the class, and it was with Dr. Crystal Beeman. And
shout out to Dr. Crystal.
Dr. Beeman. She just got married, so she's Beeman Shepherd now. But shout out to Dr. Beeman. I took her class, and she was saying that she was teaching a class called Inequalities in Public Education in fall. And I wanted to take that class. But, of course, it didn't fit in the scope of nursing, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to take it anyways. So I took it next semester, and it just opened up a new world for me, right? And it's like I thought I was the only one that went through the situations that I went through. When I took that class, I realized it wasn't just me, right? Yeah. Because, like I said, I went to PWI, so oftentimes I was the only one who had these situations, like where car, didn't have a car, public transportation, living back at home, or parents can't help pay. I got to put extra loans because my mom got denied for the Parent Plus loan, other situations,
Yeah.
So I took that class, and then I was like, I'm changing my major to sociology. Yeah. And I did. I changed it. And my godmom was like, what are you going to do with a sociology degree? And I was like, I don't know, but we're going to trust the process.
We're going to trust the process. Oh, And to those listening, you can change your major. I was a nursing major up until my junior year.
Come on, both of y'all. You're nurses.
And I love nursing. To this day, I still care for the people in a very nursing type way. Yeah. But I ended up changing my major to health education administration. So I still was within healthcare. I worked in healthcare for a while. But just to her point, I took started to take some communication class. I took a health communication class, regular communication, and Dr. Tracy Curry, shout out to Dr. Tracy Curry, who was just a phenomenal communications instructor, and how she just explained it, and how she was a poet as well, and she just brought everything to life. I was like, yes. So I still had a passion for healthcare and communication. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a health reporter. I'm going to do health communications. So I went to grad school, majored in communications, and I interned at a lot of places. I interned at Fox News. I interned at
they got 20 jobs, y'all. Mm-hmm.
That's the running joke. I've had.
She does, guys. It's true. I'm here to tell you, it's the truth.
I just want y'all to know that when you get a degree, it opens up your world, that you don't have to be confined to what you're major in, that it opens up your world to more opportunities. So they say I've lived several lives and had several jobs because I have. But that education is the key to unlocking so many doors. So I'm glad you touched on that. And what was we talking about?
I don't know. I was about to say, where was we going with this?
We was going with...
I don't remember.
We do this all the time.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
I was talking about how it's okay to change your major.
It's to change your major. What did you keep your major the whole time?
I did keep my major. I was psychology, but I've always, like, the mind has always been intriguing to me. So my best friend, she just did psychology because I did psychology. So we were doing it together. She really don't have no interest like that. But we did psychology, and then like we were saying earlier, we got into the psychology
organization.
Yeah. And we had Dr. Wilson. He was our head of psychology. Shout out to Dr. Wilson. Like, he kept us all together. So, like, we were all like a little family within psychology. So, like, he would have, looking back, I don't know, because he would have like pool parties at his house and stuff like that. Right. It was like, should you be doing it? Yeah, should we all be? But we would all be over there in the pool having fun. So, but like, So, because I wanted to go into counseling afterwards. So when I started I went right after, started grad school for counseling, but didn't quite finish.
That's okay. She going back.
I am. It is. So, but yeah, I was psychology the whole time.
So, you mentioned Dr. Wilson, right? And how he had a pool party, whatever. So I had an on-campus job when I transferred to university, Texas, Arlington. I had an on-campus job with the Center for African American Studies, and it was an inaugural program with Dr. Shanavia Hatcher. Shout out to Dr. Hatcher. She is Dean at Social Work at the University of Alabama.
Cool. Hey.
Okay. But she created this sense of community at UTA, where at the center, all the black folks came, right? And you said the pool party. She had a pool party too, and it's like, but it was lit though.
Yeah, we had a great time.
She went to Spelman, so she
She's the deal.
She real deal Holyfield.
So the point of all of that, as we're wrapping up this show, is wherever you go, find that sense of community, whether it is a HBCU or a PWI. What was the name of the center called?
Center for African American Studies.
And at the University of Michigan Flint, we had Educational Opportunity Initiative. Shout out to Dr. Tendaji Ganji. So shout out to Tawana Day Parks and all those who made that office go round for us. It was where all the black students congregated and came to, meeting of the minds and express our grievances and our joys and our pain and our laughter, our celebrations. So make sure no matter where you go to get that sense of the community, and it carries you. These are my girls. We work together and we have the sense of community where we are, because contrary to popular belief, we can't do this thing alone.
Right.
We need each other to survive in all spaces.
Yep.
Don't down your sisters. Don't down your brothers. If you see a space where they need help, you help them.
Help them.
And if you also need help, don't be afraid to ask, because there's going to be someone on that campus, whether it's a doctor. We ought to mention doctors that looked out for us. Yeah. Or, you know, it could be that lunch lady in the cafeteria. It could be a upperclassman. It could be the dorm person. It could be just a plethora of people that you might find on that campus that will help you along that journey. So I'm just really hoping that this episode helps somebody. We shared our stories. It was no crystal stair, baby.
At all.
But we made it. They didn't really touch on it because I didn't want to, get there. But they did have children while in undergrad. Don't let that deter you or stop you either, because there is still a way to be made for you. And now they got child care services and everything else that help you.
No excuse. There's no excuse now as why you can't, pursue education.
Right.
Whether it's through an allied health program or like I want to be a doctor, so you gotta start maybe at the community college and then transfer to university and then maybe get your master's. There's so many resources available for students, and a lot of students could go to college for free.
Right.
And on that note, we just gonna end it. So thank you for tuning into this special episode of the Tynee Talks podcast. Be sure to share this with students, nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, associates, enemies. Share with anybody.
Everybody.
To let them know that change your social mobility.
Social mobility.
And we out. Thank you for tuning in to Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains.